going on, vinyl community? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys how I organize my vinyl record collection. Organizing a collection is something that could go in many different directions. For example, some people can organize albums that fit a certain time frame, some people can organize it by genre, and some people will organize it by whatever country the record is from, if it's imports. Those are some examples of how people can go about organizing them. So in today's video, I'll show you how I do it. And for anyone out there that's very indecisive on how to approach organizing their collection, hopefully this video helps you and gives you a bit of insight. So with all that being said, let's jump right into the video. Alright, so for this part of the video, we're actually going to start off at the beginning of my collection. And as you can see, we have some AC/DC, some Aerosmith, and some Avenged Sevenfold. So right off the bat, I alphabetize my collection from A to Z, and then for the artists that use their actual names, such as Courtney Barnett and Syd Barrett, I organize those by their last names. I do have to say though, it's nice to have everything all under one collection, because like I said before, some people have certain ways of organizing them. I just think it's really nice to have everything all together in one piece. It just makes it a bit more immersive, because you can go pulling records like this, and then you find yourself scrolling through albums like this. You know, it just makes it more interesting, and it gives you more of an insight on what the listener is into. But anyways, I'm going off a tangent. In terms of alphabetizing, A to Z. And then I also have a very meticulous way of organizing them in chronological order from oldest release, working the way up. So for example, with my Beatles stuff, we have Please Please Me, the debut, with the Beatles, Hard Day's Night, Beatles for Sale, Help, and so on and so forth. You pretty much get the idea of it. So I try to have all the releases in pure chronological order, as you can tell right there, like with the Beatles stuff, and then like with Black Sabbath, all the classic Ozzy stuff, and then Past Lives, which came out in 2002, which is older recordings from 70 to 75. That sits in place next to the last classic era Ozzy album. And then there's a little hint of OCD involved as well, and I'll show you like with my Doors stuff. You have the classic 1967 debut, and then you have this. Now, this is live at the Aquarius Theater in 1969. This was first released on CD back in the early 2000s, and it got its vinyl debut for Record Store Day in 2016. And just for the sake that this is a full unedited concert, it sits in place in terms of like the other albums in chronological order. So like after the Aquarius, you have Morrison Hotel, which was from early 1970. And then Absolutely Live, which came out later on that year. LA Woman. So that's how I go about like with that in those senses. Another example is like with the Jimi Hendrix stuff. There's Live at Monterey. Now this is a concert that's been released many times. Basically, Jimmy played Monterey, and then later on, basically because of that performance, the US got a release of Are You Experienced? So that's kind of how I organize, you know, the Hendrix stuff, like in terms of this and Are You Experienced? And then I also do have some bootlegs that I do organize in line with the official releases. For example, we have the debut Rush album. This is the box set version, which is really cool. And then after that, we have this pretty cool bootleg, which is from 1974. It's an FM radio broadcast. Really, this was before the release of Fly By Night, so that's in place next to the debut. Then we scroll through, and then we have Permanent Waves, and then after that we have another bootleg. This is an FM radio broadcast from 1980 from the Permanent Waves tour, so that's in place next to that. With compilations, I always go with when they were released. For example, like with this is an introduction to Syd Barrett, came out in 2010, so that sits next to Opel, which was the last major Syd Barrett studio release. And then with David Bowie, we have Changes One Bowie. This came out in 1976 after the release of Station to Station, so that sits in place right there. So that's for the compilations. So for me, that's just the best way for me to go about organizing them. On the other hand, I know some collectors have artist card dividers that divide records out by letter and artist and whatnot. I do plan on getting them at some point once my collection reaches a certain point. Because obviously, as you can tell, I mean, yeah, my collection is rather in-depth and pretty big, but it's still kind of small in comparison to some other collections, and it is rapidly growing at a fast pace, so I do have a feeling that I will be getting those dividers at some point down the road. And for the sake of covering everything, how I organize my 12-inch records is also how I organize my 7 inches. So we'll open this up and I'll just show you right off the bat. We have AC/DC, Rock or Bust, Courtney Barnett, Syd Barrett, and Beatles. So you pretty much get the idea by now how I go on about it. For me personally, that it's just the easiest and best way to organize them, and I feel that it gets the job done perfectly for me. Alright, so that is how I organize my vinyl record collection. If you enjoyed this video and you thought it was very informative, please like it and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the record spinning.